last couple days, which is crazy. We need to talk about the adolescent right now. Hey guys, it's Caitlin. Welcome to my channel. I don't think I actually filmed an intro for this video, so I wanted to just pop in here really quick. But this video is a vlog of me reading my December TBR. I hope you guys enjoy it, so let's just get into the video. If you didn't watch my last video where I picked my TBR, this is it. It's Bleak House by Charles Dickens. I have Beartown by Frederick Backman. I've been wanting to read this for years. On Human Slaughter by Elizabeth Brunneg. If on a Winter's Night, A Traveler by Italo Calvino. Can we just like look at this book? How gorgeous. I love Mariner classics. They always have the best covers. And then I have The Adolescent by Dostoevsky. And I don't know which one I want to read first. I'm kind of feeling On Human Slaughter though, just because it's really short. I don't typically read nonfiction, so it might be a nice little break after just reading fiction and my Russian fictions. So I think I'm gonna start there. I'll come back when there are some reading updates. See you in like a second your time. Good morning guys. I actually haven't vlogged in a few days. I've been making some really good reading progress. I finished On Human Slaughter by Elizabeth Brunneg last week, I think. So this is a collection of essays she wrote about the death penalty in America, specifically in Alabama. This is okay. I kind of have mixed reviews because this is a collection of essays that she published for The Atlantic, and they were compiled together specifically for this book. So I understand as a reporter, she was covering more narrow topics over a period of time. It's also very anti-death penalty. I would have liked some other opinions. I would have liked an argument for the death penalty, to be honest, because obviously as an American, I know about the death penalty. I know there are corrupt things going on with it, but I don't have like an in-depth overview of the death penalty as a whole, and that's kind of what I thought this was gonna be. I do want to say she never dismisses the atrocities that these criminals have committed. Like, she very much says what they've done and that it's not good, and she doesn't support it. So I will say she does do that. I just kind of thought this was gonna be a bit different, and I guess it's my fault, but I thought this did give some good anti-death penalty arguments. So if that's something you're interested in, I would definitely pick this up. A book that I'm just loving is The Adolescent by Dostoevsky. I am pretty far through it. I only have this much left, about 200 pages. The Adolescent is probably Dostoevsky's least talked about bigger novel. And from when I was looking at reviews like a long time ago, it wasn't like raved about or highly starred or anything. So I wasn't really sure what I was gonna think of this book, but I'm so happy that I'm loving it. The main character is Arkady Makarovich, and he really stresses that he is illegitimate, even though Verslov does claim him as his own. And I do want to note this is Dostoevsky's coming of age novel. Arkady Makarovich is 19, but the story is told writing about his past and kind of reflecting on it too. And I really like that because, you know, he'll say what he did when he was 19, and then he'll just be like, yeah, I know it was wrong. I was young. I thought I knew everything and I didn't. And it's just so truthful as to how you feel when you look back on who you were when you were younger or as a kid. And I like that he's reflecting. He never like outright says like, oh, I regret this, or I hate that I did this. He's just kind of like, I did it. And that sucks, but I did it anyway. I just finished part 2 last night, so much has happened. And Arkady is getting very Raskolnikov. He's delirious. He's walking around town. He's falling asleep in the snow. He's unconscious for 9 days. I'm really in the story, but most of it is just Arkady kind of connecting with his family after maybe not like being estranged, but they have just a very weird relationship because, you know, Arkady feels like he wasn't accepted for being himself. He grew up in an orphanage, so it's not like he lived with them all of his life. Very complex relationships with his dad, Versalov, his mother, his sister. His immediate family is really like giving him a chance. Like they're not treating him any differently because he's like a legitimate son, but you can tell he still has this like complex of, oh, this isn't my family, like they didn't accept me. Like he starts fights with them, he just wants to make them upset, but ultimately he just wants them to love him anyway. I'm really enjoying this. I think it's gonna be a 5-star, but I'll let you know once I finish it. As I said, I have probably 200 pages left. I really want to finish it in a few days. And I actually just got a book. I know. I got this last night and I wanted to open it on camera because this book has literally been so impossible to get. Guys, it's Castle on Clouds by Kirsten Gier. I've wanted to read this for like 2 years now, so I'm really happy I was able to get it. Let me know why this was so hard to get. It was never at any Barnes & Nobles, never went on sale on Amazon for like Black Friday, Prime Days, nothing. And then I ordered it, said it was gonna come next day, got delayed, finally came. But I am so excited. So I guess I'll see you next time I have an update. Okay. We need to talk about The Adolescent right now. I'm literally so obsessed with this book. So I finished this, I think 2 days ago now, and it's blown my mind. I didn't really know what to expect going into this book because this is probably the least well-known and least liked book of Dostoevsky's, like out of his major works, but I loved this so much. I gave it 5 stars. I will say though, out of the rest of his works, I don't feel like this left like a long-lasting impact or impression on me. And I'm wondering if that's why this isn't so raved about. Because honestly, this is really just a coming-of-age story. It deals a lot with like dysfunctional families. I loved all the weird, complicated family dilemmas in this book, but most of all, I really just enjoyed it. This was not a difficult read. Compared to Demons and even The Idiot, I think this was so simple to read. If you've just read Crime and Punishment and you want another bigger work of Dostoevsky's to read, and you're not well versed in classics, I think this would be excellent to read. I flew through this, and the last Dostoevsky that I flew through was Crime and Punishment, and that was the first one I read by him. But I absolutely loved this. Let me know in the comments if you've read The Adolescent or even considered it. I feel like most people don't. I highly recommend it. It was so enjoyable. But as you can see, I have only one lonely tab in here, and that's because when I'm reading, I don't like having to carry like markers and little tabs with me, so I actually just like take photos on my phone and I'll like underline and highlight everything that I want to tab later, as you can see. So I kind of just want to go through this book now and tab it before I put it away. Oh, also, now that I'm looking at something I underlined, Dostoevsky and, you know, the main character, Arkady, he referenced Othello several times, which is my favorite Shakespeare play, so that made me so happy. But anyway, I'm just gonna start tabbing this, and I thought we can do it together. So let's do it. So I thought I would just read a few quotes that really stood out to me in this book. There's two in particular. The first one is, "My friend, to love people as they are is impossible, and yet one must, and therefore do good to them, clenching your feelings, holding your nose, and shutting your eyes. This last is necessary. Endure evil from them, not getting angry with them if possible, remembering that you too are a human being." That is just the truth, basically, if you want to have any lasting friendships in your life. And then the next one, "But though I did say that, I still looked at him with love. We talked like two friends in the highest and fullest sense of the word. He had brought me here to explain, to recount, to justify something to me. And yet everything was already explained and justified before any words. Whatever I was to hear from him now, the result had already been achieved, and we both happily knew it and looked at each other that way." And I love that quote, one, because of what it means. That's really how it is with family members and really close friends that you've known forever. But in the context of this book, it was a really just great moment between Arkady and his dad, Versalov, who don't really get along, but this is such like a pivotal moment in their relationship that it just got me. Anyway, that is The Adolescent. I can't believe I read this, and I can't believe how fast I did. I really wasn't expecting that. But now on to what I'm currently reading, because I've been in just such a reading mood, which is the best. But I started Beartown by Fredrik Backman. I don't know how to feel about this one right now. So I'm flying through this book. This book is predominantly about hockey, and it follows a bunch of different characters, from the players to the players' parents, the coaches, the owners of the ice rink, people who used to be on the hockey team. There's so many characters in here, and I'm only on page 80, but it is really easy to follow. And I think just based on what I read, characters and explaining who they are and describing them, I feel like that's probably Backman's strength just from what I read. But it's a tad over dramatic, like how they talk about hockey. And in a way, I get it, because this is a really small town, and if the team wins this hockey game, that can lead to the club having more sponsorships. It could help the town actually get developed, because Beartown is in the middle of the forest. That's said several times. And the town just isn't doing well economically. There's a lot of layoffs. People who do work need to drive pretty far to get to the nearest city. So the town isn't doing well, and it's kind of hinging on this hockey team to win a really big game in order to become more economically sound. And honestly, I'm thinking about that in real life, and I'm kind of like, does that even make sense? Like, is that a situation that could happen? I don't know. So yeah, really, really great at explaining and describing characters, but it's just like a little over dramatic in some places. Like, he'll insert these little like narration points throughout the chapters, and it's like, this sport demands only one thing from you. Your all. It means everything. That's all. And I'm like, okay, I get hockey is really important to the town, it's important to the players, like it's important, but I don't need like all these snippets of a dramatic reading. And I'm kind of, I don't know. I'm kind of undecided on the chapter setup basically. So I feel like every chapter I've read, I just finished chapter 10. Every chapter starts out with a paragraph, and it feels like a setup, right? That's like the best way I can describe it. Like, for example, there's this paragraph at the top, and it's basically just talking about, oh, like adults have days when they're completely drained, they don't know what they're fighting for or what they spend so much time worrying about. And then it says, the wonderful thing is that we can all live through far more days like that without breaking than we think. The terrible thing is that we never know exactly how many. So that paragraph is kind of setting up the chapter, and then everything in the chapter is gonna kind of circle back to that main point. And in a way, I like it because I think it rounds out the story, but at the same time, it's every single chapter, and I feel like I can kind of predict where we're going. And I don't know, I just don't necessarily love it. I don't think it's necessary. I think we could kind of just jump into the chapter and those things could be presented. Like, I don't think they have to be explicitly stated because they're implicitly in the whole chapter. So those are my quick little thoughts on Beartown. Even though I do have some critiques, I am flying through it. I'm really enjoying the story. I'm not like super connected to any of the characters yet, but I'm only like 80 pages in, and I think there's around 400 pages. And I also know, I don't know what it is, but I know something horrible happens pretty much in the middle of the book. So I'm kind of like waiting for it. I have some ideas as to what's gonna happen, but I don't know. So those are my current thoughts right now. I'll keep you updated as I keep reading. Hey guys, it's actually been a few days since my last update, so sorry about that, but I've just been reading so much. I finished 2 books in the past couple days, which is crazy. I finished Beartown by Frederick Bachman and If on a Winter's Night a Traveler by Italo Calvino, and I just wanted to share my thoughts on them. So I finished Beartown first, and I didn't expect it to be so good and also go into so much depth. So my last clip of me talking about this, I wasn't super into Beartown. I thought Frederick Bachman's writing was over dramatic, which I still stand by, but I think that style of writing worked more in the second half of the book after this traumatic event happened. And I don't want to say what it is because I don't want to spoil it for you guys if you want to read it, but it's really horrible, and I think Bachman does such a great job of explaining different points of view and perceptions about what happened. I think he also does a great job of delving into the women's perspective, just on how women are viewed in Beartown, how they don't really have a voice or any options. Like, this book is all about hockey, and girls don't even have a hockey team in Beartown, which is a hockey town. It's very much centered on the boys and the men in this town. But I think Bachman does a really great job of showing that women lack that voice and how these people in the town will do anything to protect the hockey team. So I thought this was really good. I'm kind of struggling to talk about it without saying what did happen. I would look up some trigger warnings although that would probably spoil the book for you, but I pretty much cried through most of this, I won't lie. I didn't expect to like it so much. I don't know if I'll continue with the series, but this was really, really good. Highly recommend. So the second book that I finished that I also have no idea how to talk about is If on a Winter's Night a Traveler by Italo Calvino. So this is kind of told in second person. So we do have a main character, or at least like a narrator, and he keeps finding books that only include the first chapter. So for example, he goes to a bookstore, he buys a book, he reads the first chapter titled If on a Winter's Night a Traveler, and then after he reads the first chapter, he realizes the whole book is printed incorrectly. He goes back to the bookstore, he asks for a refund, the bookseller tells him the name of the actual book, which is outside the town of Malbork. So then he reads the first chapter of that book, and it doesn't have anything to do with If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. And after reading the first chapter of that story, it's messed up again, or the pages are just blank. So this basically happens 10 times. There are 10 first chapters of a story, and between all those chapters are other chapters of this main character trying to figure out what is going on. And in each chapter, he typically will meet a character or a few, and we'll kind of see the new story through their point of view. So for example, there is this one character named Lotaria, and in her chapter, she's leading like a literary study group, which is focused on like a political lens. Then the next story is like perceived also in that political lens. So this is definitely very interesting. I've never read a book like this. I don't really think there is another book like this. I feel like I was struggling to get into it because I absolutely had no idea what was going on. But I think that's kind of the point. Once I started not overthinking this book, I kind of got more into it and understood-ish what was going on. But this isn't too long. It's about 250 pages. So if this is something you've been interested in and you want something experimental, something different, this also talks about a reader's relationship with reading, writer's relationship with reading, translators. It is very interesting if you love books. But I thought this was really great. I do want to read more of Calvino because I think this is very experimental. I don't know what his other works are like, but I thought this was really great. It wasn't a 5-star for me because honestly, my enjoyment wasn't like at its peak. If anything, I found more enjoyment in Beartown because this was so addictive, but I just think this was so different and unique. I kind of really had to concentrate to try and understand what was going on. And the next book that I'm about to pick up is A Castle in the Clouds by Kirsten Gier. This took me forever to get, and I'm so excited to start reading this. I actually think it starts on Christmas Eve, which is perfect because it's Christmas Eve today. So I'm really excited to start this. I think this is gonna be a really fun, quick read, and I'm just so excited. I've wanted to read this for so long, so I'm definitely gonna keep you guys updated on Castle in the Clouds. Hey guys, so this is my last reading update for my TBR vlog. I unfortunately have not finished my December TBR, which I think I talked about in the beginning of this vlog. It's literally been so long at this point, but I wanted to give one last update, and the first book I wanted to talk about, I already spoke about, which is If on a Winter's Night a Traveler by Italo Calvino. I've since put in my little tab, and I realized I wanted to read some quotes to you guys, and I didn't in the last clips. So here are some of my favorites. This first one is from the chapter or the story, Leaning from the Steep Slope. It is my relationship with my life, consisting of things never concluded and half erased, that the subject of seashells forces me to contemplate. hence the uneasiness that finally puts me to flight. Now that I'm reading it out of context, I don't think it makes sense. Basically, this character used to collect seashells when he was a kid, and now he's met Mrs. Vita, who is painting a seashell. So that's how like the topic comes up, and how he has that memory of things never concluded and half erased. But I really liked that one. And then the second one that I really liked is I didn't mean to discuss, I wanted to read. And I love this quote because this book is full of readers, authors, translators, publishers, people in the book world who aren't readers, but our main character is a reader. And at the beginning of this chapter, he's at like a study session or a discussion group about a book, and he kind of ends up there just because he's trying to track down the rest of the book that they're about to discuss. And I think this quote is so great because that is true. Like sometimes you don't want to talk about a book, you just want to read it. So I love that one. Anyway, those are the two quotes that I'm going to share from this book. Next is A Castle in the Clouds, which I'm not done with, but I'm like 200 pages in at this point, so I'm more than halfway through. But I'm loving this. I think it's written so well, which I was a little nervous about just because I think this is young adult, and it was published in 2020. It actually, like, nothing has flagged for me. It's so easy to read, so fast paced. This book has a ton of things in it. So we follow our main character, Sophie Sparks. She is a chambermaid in this really nice hotel in the Swiss Alps. We follow her and her coworkers and all the rich guests that come through. There's a bit of a mystery element in here, which I didn't know about, but I'm really enjoying it. And then also kind of a love triangle between Sophie, one of her coworkers, and a guest. So that's also really fun. But I'm really enjoying this book and I can't wait to keep reading it. I feel like I'm gonna finish it either today or tomorrow because I'm just flying right through it. And then the last book I'm just gonna touch on briefly because this was in my TBR video for December, but I'm in no way gonna finish this. I don't even know if how much I'll get through it if I start it, because today is December 26th. So that is Bleak House by Charles Dickens. I kind of knew this probably wasn't gonna happen this month, but I am gonna start it once I finish Castle in the Clouds and read it throughout January and probably February and maybe March. So no updates on Bleak House quite yet, but I am really happy because I have finished 4 books this month so far, and then A Castle in the Clouds will be 5, which I'll definitely finish. So I think that's pretty cool. This is one of my best reading months this year. So anyway, that is the end of this December TBR vlog. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you're gonna pick up any of these books or if you've already read them. I'd love to know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.